asked to leave the White House. Then he appeared on Fox News and said he thinks he can still salvage his relationship with President Trump.
Ryan Reynolds has spent years perfecting one of Hollywood's most polished public images. The witty, charming goofball who roasts his wife in playful banter, fires off sarcasm like a true art, and carries himself as the easygoing neighbor you'd love to share a drink with. But what if that entire persona is only an act? What if, behind the cheeky grin and self-deprecating humor, there's a side far less wholesome than he lets on?
On her, not on him. Incredibly telling. So that to me is showing where Hollywood and all these people.
Here's the uncomfortable truth most people avoid saying out loud. Ryan Reynolds may actually be one of the most controlling, egotistical, and even intimidating figures in Hollywood. You've likely seen the headlines: tension with co-stars, whispered threats behind the scenes, entire directors walking away from projects, and wondered if there's more beneath the surface. Spoiler: there is, and it runs far deeper than most realize. The polished image of a quick-witted, sarcastic charmer you see on late-night talk shows is a sharp contrast to stories of an actor who allegedly went so far as to threaten a makeup artist's career over something as trivial as a blush brush. That shocking outburst might only scratch the surface of a larger, darker pattern. Buckle up, because you're about to step behind the curtain into the side of Ryan Reynolds Hollywood doesn't advertise. Once you see the rumors, controversies, and whispered accounts piled together, it may be impossible to view him the same way again.
It revealed a source that says he had quite an experience demanding his makeup artist show up or get fired. I'll share that story.
Let's begin with the meltdown that exposed Ryan Reynolds' darker side and sent shockwaves through the studio system. The story goes like this. During the production of a major blockbuster, he needed reshoots, a routine part of Hollywood. But when his trusted makeup artist was unavailable, busy on another job, instead of simply bringing in a replacement like most stars would, Reynolds allegedly exploded in anger and issued a blunt ultimatum: return immediately or face consequences.
I remember the next day I walked on and I said, "You get off my set." It's the first time I've ever spoken. I remember being so scared. Yes. And I looked at this person and I said, "You can F off. I'm going to work towards a tennis ball. I never want to see you again."
Or you'll never work in this town again. Pause on that for a moment. We're not talking about some rising star throwing a diva tantrum. This is Ryan Reynolds, the man who's carefully built a reputation as Hollywood's funniest, most self-deprecating neighbor. For years, he's been the quick-witted guy who cracks jokes at his own expense, the affable clown who seems impossible to dislike. Yet, if these whispers are to be believed, behind the cameras, that playful persona mutates into something far more unsettling, a figure scarily controlling and unafraid to wield his power. Industry insiders claim that Reynolds essentially demanded the impossible, telling his trusted makeup artist to drop everything and return immediately or risk being blacklisted. Rumors like these swirl around plenty of big-name actors, but rarely do they leak into the open. This time, however, Fox News reportedly caught wind. Faced with the choice between angering a valuable star or appeasing his demands, the studio allegedly pressured the artist to return as soon as possible. And if that chilling threat about never working again truly came from Reynolds himself, imagine the fear it must have sparked. Hollywood is a ruthless, competitive machine. When someone with that kind of clout hints your career could be over, most people scramble. Some might dismiss the meltdown as an off day, a rare lapse in judgment. But as more stories trickle out, it begins to look less like an isolated outburst and more like part of a pattern, a warning sign that the comedian adored by millions might, behind closed doors, be one of the industry's toughest bullies. To understand Reynolds' reputation, you have to examine his history with directors. Early in his career, he was the rom-com lead, the sarcastic sidekick trying to land that one breakout role. Everything changed when Deadpool exploded into a cultural phenomenon. Suddenly, Reynolds wasn't just the star, he was the creative authority. Tim Miller, the director who helped craft the first Deadpool into a global hit, learned this the hard way. Despite critical acclaim and box office success, Miller abruptly exited Deadpool 2. Why would a director abandon a billion-dollar franchise? According to industry chatter, the reason was simple: control. Reynolds allegedly wanted near-total authority, over casting choices, script revisions, marketing strategies, everything. The synergy and collaboration that fueled the original's success evaporated. Rumors suggest Miller realized that staying would mean constant battles with Reynolds, and fighting against Hollywood's newly crowned golden boy was career suicide. So, he walked, or perhaps was pushed out. That wasn't the last time Reynolds' alleged controlling streak came up. More directors and colleagues have hinted at similar experiences, describing him as increasingly difficult once he senses a project's momentum. The charm that dominates press tours can quickly vanish when the cameras stop rolling. Say no to his vision, and you risk clashing with someone determined to prove he's the mastermind behind every success. And so, the pattern emerges. The same domineering behavior rumored in the makeup artist incident echoes in his dealings with creative collaborators. The cheerful, approachable clown adored by fans seems to disappear the moment he's challenged. To those who've worked closely with him, Reynolds is less the lovable jokester and more a figure who demands control at nearly any cost. You might think these are just isolated clashes, but co-stars, directors, and insiders suggest otherwise. Time after time, the stories line up, painting a picture of a man who, once he gets a taste of power, refuses to let go. The question is, how many more stories like these are waiting to surface? Over time, a troubling picture begins to emerge, one that suggests Ryan Reynolds doesn't just clash with directors, but also shows little respect for fellow actors. Consider T.J. Miller, the comedian who played Weasel in the Deadpool films. Miller, a stand-up veteran known for his improvisational style and offbeat humor, should have been the perfect partner for Reynolds' sarcastic wit. Yet, according to TJ himself, their dynamic was anything but playful. He described Ryan's behavior as weirdly mean, not friendly ribbing or comedic sparring, but belittling jabs delivered in front of the entire crew. To Miller, it felt less like a joke and more like a calculated effort to remind everyone who the real star was, and Miller isn't the only one. Morena Baccarin, who played Vanessa, the love interest of Reynolds' Wade Wilson, was adored by fans for her chemistry with him in the first Deadpool. But in the sequel, her presence was drastically reduced, her role relegated almost to the sidelines. Officially, the change was blamed on the script's direction. Unofficially, however, whispers suggest otherwise. Insiders claim Baccarin may have voiced creative input that Reynolds didn't agree with, and as a result, she found herself pushed out of the spotlight. What looked like a narrative decision may have actually been a power move. Cross him, and you risk losing screen time. When these stories are placed side by side, a clear pattern starts to take shape. Reynolds, according to those who've worked with him, appears to thrive only when he remains the undisputed star. Anyone who challenges his comedic dominance, whether a co-star with improvisational chops or a love interest with creative opinions, allegedly finds themselves sidelined, minimized, or quietly elbowed out of the frame. The easygoing, supportive mentor fans believe they know may be little more than a carefully crafted persona for press tours and social media. Behind the scenes, co-stars describe a man determined to protect his throne at the center of attention. And if you want proof of just how real this tension can get, you don't need to look far. Few Hollywood friendships once looked as unshakable as the bromance between Ryan Reynolds and Jake Gyllenhaal. Remember their press tour for Life, 2017? The two joked like mischievous classmates, finishing each other's sentences and laughing so hard interviewers could barely keep up. For a brief moment, they seemed destined to become Hollywood's next great comedic duo. But the shine didn't last. Almost as quickly as it began, the playful energy froze over. During a later interview, Jake was asked point-blank about Ryan. Instead of offering the usual Hollywood courtesy, a polite comment, a generic compliment, anything, he flatly refused. The actor known for composure, who once weathered entire songs written about his private life without flinching, suddenly had nothing to say. Not a single nice word. His curt dismissal spoke volumes. What went wrong? Was it a scheduling conflict, a minor creative clash, or something bigger? The silence surrounding the issue fueled endless speculation. Hollywood thrives on carefully crafted optics. Forced smiles and hollow "we're still great friends" statements, even when the reality is bitter. For Gyllenhaal to so openly refuse even the appearance of friendliness suggests something serious. Rumors whisper that Reynolds' controlling tendencies dominated the set, and Jake, a heavyweight in his own right, refused to bend. Whatever happened, Gyllenhaal's public coolness toward Reynolds became the first visible crack in the lovable funny guy image. But the hints don't stop with professional friendships. To really grasp the depth of Reynolds' alleged issues, you have to look at his personal life, specifically his high-profile relationships with two accomplished women, Scarlett Johansson and Alanis Morissette. Both walked away, and both, according to gossip and thinly veiled comments, pointed to the same problem. Ryan's insecurity. Scarlett has always kept her private life close to the vest, rarely indulging in public drama. So when she casually mentioned that passive-aggressive jealousy is just another form of insecurity, fans took notice. She didn't name names, but context made the reference clear. Tabloids quickly tied her remarks to Reynolds, speculating that his jealousy over her rising star power strained their marriage. At the time, Scarlett's career was skyrocketing, while Ryan was still carving out his place. Was he threatened? Rumor has it he struggled with being overshadowed, particularly when his wife was arguably the bigger Hollywood name. Before Scarlett, there was Alanis Morissette. She and Ryan were engaged for years before splitting, and she famously channeled the heartbreak into her album flavors of Entanglement. One track referenced unbelievable insecurity, and though she never directly confirmed it, many believe she was writing about Ryan. 2 relationships, 2 breakups, both shaded by accusations of jealousy and insecurity. Taken together, these accounts suggest a different side of Reynolds than the witty everyman he projects. Behind the cheeky grin and polished sarcasm may lie an ego that bruises easily, a man who struggles with envy and control. And if that insecurity affects his personal relationships, imagine how it plays out on multi-million-dollar film sets where he is both clout and leverage. In that environment, small insecurities can morph into tantrums, ultimatums, and whispered threats. Fans, of course, often point to Ryan's marriage with Blake Lively as proof of his charming, grounded personality. Together, the couple has built a social media empire of playful barbs and picture-perfect comedy. Birthdays, holidays, anniversaries, each occasion becomes an excuse for witty posts where they poke fun at each other with flawless timing. On the surface, it looks like a fairy tale. 2 gorgeous stars, endlessly in love, crowned as Hollywood's king and queen of comedic romance. But here's the question few people dare ask. Why do they push this narrative so hard? The constant stream of cheeky posts, the curated banter, the polished image of domestic comedy, it feels almost too perfect. In the rumor mill, this isn't seen as harmless fun. It's seen as strategy. Every time negative press about Ryan's alleged on-set clashes surfaces, the couple's cutesy online antics dominate the headlines instead. The funny Instagram captions and viral birthday pranks drown out the darker whispers about feuds, threats, or control issues. To some, it looks like a well-oiled distraction machine, one that keeps the spotlight on Ryan as the witty, lovable everyman fans can't get enough of, even while unsettling stories bubble beneath the surface. Whether that's intentional or not, the timing often speaks for itself. Whenever controversy about Ryan Reynolds surfaces, whether it's rumors of feuds with co-stars or whispers of controlling behavior, he and Blake Lively seem to have a ready-made distraction, a new wave of lighthearted social media banter. Suddenly, headlines shift from talk of behind-the-scenes meltdowns to playful stories of Ryan mocking Blake's socks or Blake forgetting Ryan's birthday. It's a time-tested PR move. Give the public something sweet and funny to overshadow the bitter truth. But the carefully curated couple image isn't without cracks. Blake herself has been caught in her own legal entanglements, including a messy lawsuit with Justin Baldoni that's had fans buzzing. It's the sort of behind-the-scenes drama that doesn't quite fit the perfect marriage brand they've worked so hard to build. The result? A glossy exterior of playful Instagram posts, under which lies a more complicated reality. Oh, how authentic is their public love story? That depends on who you ask. Some argue it's genuine, while skeptics point out that truly content couples don't need to constantly remind the world of their chemistry. Oversaturation, critics suggest, is a telltale sign that something is being overcompensated for. In this case, the relentless stream of comedic posts could be less about sharing joy and more about shielding Ryan from mounting negative press. After all, if more stories of on-set meltdowns or controlling clashes surface, their playful public act may be the only thing standing between him and a full-scale image collapse, and those stories are stacking up. Start with the infamous makeup artist incident, where Reynolds allegedly threatened a career over unavailability. Add in director Tim Miller, who walked away from Deadpool 2 despite its runaway success, reportedly unable to endure Reynolds' power struggles. Then there's TJ Miller, describing Ryan's behavior toward him as weirdly mean, and Morena Baccarin, whose reduced role in the sequel fueled rumors of behind-the-scenes conflicts. Even Jake Gyllenhaal's sudden silence about their once-famous bromance raises eyebrows, hinting at deeper tensions that Hollywood PR couldn't smooth over. Beyond co-stars, other respected figures in the industry have openly mocked or questioned Reynolds' work. Pair that with exes like Scarlett Johansson and Alanis Morissette, both hinting at insecurity and jealousy during their time with him, and a troubling portrait emerges. Again and again, the same themes surface: control, insecurity, power plays, and behavior that doesn't quite line up with the charming, cheeky persona he's cultivated in public. Where does that leave Ryan Reynolds today? Is he still the irreverent, witty talk show guest fans adore? Or is he the controlling figure described by former collaborators and partners? The answer may be somewhere in between. Perhaps the comedic mask is partly real. Maybe he truly does enjoy making people laugh. But it's harder than ever to ignore the growing number of voices describing a very different man once the cameras stop rolling. The real question now is whether Reynolds can maintain this balancing act. Hollywood does forgive scandals, but only when the public still adores you. If the tide of negative accounts continues to grow, the carefully polished, nice guy routine may start to sound hollow, like a script that's been over-rehearsed. What happens if another high-profile director refuses to work with him, or another co-star comes forward with their own horror story? At some point, even the best comedic smoke and mirrors won't be enough to disguise the insecurities and controlling behavior these rumors suggest. In the end, it's up to audiences to decide which version of Ryan Reynolds to believe, the charming prankster or the alleged tyrant. But one thing is clear: the cracks in his reputation are widening. And if Hollywood loves anything more than a rising star, it's the dramatic fall of one. For now, Ryan and Blake continue their public performance, scrambling to keep the brand intact. Yet behind the jokes, Instagram filters, and perfectly timed smiles, the real drama is unfolding, one whispered feud, one meltdown, one lawsuit at a time.